Welcome, everyone, to the House Appropriations Subcommittee on the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. We will now come to order. Clerk, if you could take today's roll.
Chair Cavett.
Here.
Representative Borton. Representative Markkinen. Here. Representative Stecklaw.
Present.
Representative Price.
Here.
Mr. Chair, a quorum of 4 out of 5 subcommittee members is present.
All right, thank you. Rep. Markkinen moves to approve the minutes from May 13. There being no objections, the minutes are approved. No objections. All right. Well, today we've got a presentation with Travis Bolschool and Jared Sanders, the Director of Water Resources from Eagles. So whenever you gentlemen are ready, thanks for being here today.
Good afternoon. Travis Boskel, Deputy Director with the agency. Jared's going to guide you through this here. I always feel the need to introduce myself at the start of
I
the
apologize. I butcher your name each time.
No, that's okay. It's been a lifelong struggle for me.
Hey, good. I guess early afternoon. I almost said good morning. So again, I'm Jared Sanders, still the relatively new director in Water Resources Division, about 3.5 months. I've been with the division for almost 21 years now. So all of that time in water, but again, still new to the position. And one of the things I think you'll see in the presentation is sort of the depth and breadth of the different things we do in water is pretty big and complicated. And so I will do the best that I can to answer all of the questions. But I might pull a new guy card if I need to and reach back out to you. So I actually really love this slide because it shows a couple of different things, and the first one, and maybe most important, is that Michigan and the Great Lakes Basin is like a globally rare and unique place. The basin itself, Great Lakes Basin, is 70% of North America's fresh surface water, about 21% of the world. So there is no aquatic landscape like this anywhere else on the planet, and that's a really special thing. For Michigan, we have 3,300 miles of coastline on 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. That's about equivalent to the eastern seaboard of the United States. We have 11,000 inland lakes, about 50,000 river miles, and about 6 million acres of wetlands. So the state itself is not only sort of geographically defined by our water, but we're inundated with it. Also, incredible groundwater resources as well. The other thing that this slide shows, if you look kind of closely, is that despite all of that water, that how we manage it and the decisions we make still matter. You can see there's an algae bloom in the western Lake Erie Basin that's visible from low orbit, also in Lake St. Clair, and also in Saginaw Bay. So despite all that water, the decisions we make still matter. So which brings us to the mission of the division itself, and I'm gonna not read it directly, but talk about what this sort of means to us. Obviously, our goal is to protect that water, and we do that through a couple of different sort of main principles. One is the way that we use the water, the designated uses, some of which are listed up here, and then also to protect our aquatic ecosystems and the public trust. So the public's ownership interest in our water, in our surface water and groundwater. So really quick look at our budget. You can see the sort of dominant forces in our budget are federal funds. Lost the thing up there, but there we go. So federal funds, state general funds, and then fees. About 20 to 25% of the budget, depending on the year, passes through WRD to local communities and local groups, mostly in the form of grants. The one thing that I would note about this is if you go back historically, it was a relatively equal balance between general fund, federal funds, and fees. The major fee programs in water, one of them was last updated in 2004, so over 20 years ago. And then the other major fee programs we have was last updated about 30 years ago. So you can see that the buying power of those fees has gone down over the last 20 to 30 years. And in the fee programs, The other funds are the ones that tend to pass through. In the fee programs, that means, you know, bodies and seats. Those are the people that do the work, issue the permits, do the inspections, respond to the complaints, do the monitoring. So, go ahead, Travis. So this is a experience profile of our division, and you can see there that we are not very well balanced. So it's about 41% of our overall staff have less than 5 years of experience. I will say that we're very happy. I think we're bringing in very talented, we're hiring very talented people right now, but regulatory work is very nuanced work, and so it takes some time not only to understand the regulations, but how to understand how we interact with the public and with our customers and with our permittees. And so to me, this is really key to our success, is how do we shift this this profile a little bit. And I mentioned 41%. If you take out our more experienced supervisors, statewide specialists, that actually accounts for about 57% of the people on the ground, the people that are doing the work and interacting with the public have been there less than 5 years. And we are making progress here. This number's starting to come down. We had some real struggles with retention and turnover during COVID and just post-COVID. So we're really starting to make some progress here, but this to me is key to our success. So, go ahead. Okay, so I really like this slide too. This is up on our webpage, and this gets to the depth and breadth issue that I was talking about. This is the regulatory programs that are in WRD, and this is a little bit unique for the divisions in the department. This is about 20 different sort of regulatory disciplines or programs that are in water. And so I obviously won't be able to get into the details of all of those today. I'll try to give you as high level as what we can. But we have a very broad set of regulations that we deal with, and also a really broad customer base. It would be difficult to find a local unit of government that we haven't interacted with in some form or fashion. We interact with virtually every industry in the state, and our customer base ranges from, you know, Joe homeowner to the largest wastewater plant in the country, Great Lakes Water Authority over on the southeast side. So how do we sort of eat the elephant here? So we do break the programs down a little bit as we look at them. And so, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on this, but generally we look at it from a water quality standpoint. So on this side, you think pipes, pollutants, discharges, and then the other major sort of family of programs is what we call water resources, or our resource programs, and that means shovels, construction, building a structure in and around our waterways. So dredge and fill is on this side, wastewater discharges on the water quality side. So dig into the water quality programs just a little bit more. And this is not just, neither of our programs is strictly regulatory. Regulatory obviously is a big piece of it, and obviously makes a big portion of the things that we end up talking about. But we do a ton of monitoring. We monitored and assessed about 500 water bodies in the state last year, and that informs our permitting and our decision and the things that we do with our grants. We do have tons of grants and partnerships, grants that go through to local watershed organizations, or grants that go through to do beach monitoring around the state, in almost every county in the state. So on the regulatory side of things, yep, we do a lot of permitting in this area, and that again is really broad. So on the wastewater and stormwater side, those are the two things where we're implementing a federal program. We're implementing Section 402 of the Clean Water Act for wastewater and stormwater, but that's industrial, that's municipal, that is a public wastewater construction engineering program, pretreatment program. So again, there are several sort of different regulatory programs within those. Wanted to mention our groundwater discharge permitting program, which also gets a lot of attention and has over the last few years. But want to also mention that there are over a million homes individual single-family homes in this state that are served by private drinking water wells. About 4 million of our 10 million residents get their drinking water directly from the ground. So it is important that we protect that. And once groundwater is contaminated, not that we should be polluting our surface waters either, but once groundwater is contaminated, it is exceptionally difficult. It stays that way for a long time, and so that's the importance of that program. We also have permitting programs that oversee invasive chemical treatments for invasive plants and nuisance algae blooms, and then water treatments additives as well. So. So this is, I won't spend a ton of time on this, but on the water quality programs, our permitting, monitoring, assessment, compliance, all those things fit together in a cycle. So our permitting cycles are usually for 5 years. That permit is designed to meet designated uses and water quality values. We then implement that permit through compliance assistance, compliance, enforcement if necessary, and use our non-regulatory functions to try to keep those water bodies in compliance with the designated uses and the water quality standards. Before we reissue those permits and go back through that cycle, we go out and do monitoring, determine if the water body is progressing, regressing, and if it still continues to meet the standards. Go ahead, Trey. How am I doing on time here? I tend to over.
No problems.
Yeah, okay. So on the other side of things is our water resource programs. This does generate probably, Travis probably has a better, but certainly over 50% of the legislative inquiries that come into the department. They're difficult programs, they're tough programs to implement, but they are really important. And in this program too, we're implementing a federal statute, Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, the dredge and fill part. So for our wetlands, inland lakes, and streams program, that's an assumed program. And despite the fact that it gets a lot of attention, that is a streamlined application process. And so when someone applies for what's called the joint permit application under any one of these statutes, because a lot of projects are regulated by multiple of these statutes. So it's one application, you get your federal authorization, you get a state authorization, you get a state water quality certification, and then if it's in a coastal zone, it gets a coastal zone certification. And all of that comes out of that one process. So it's a really important program, really successful program, but it is a challenging program, and it certainly does get a lot of attention. Our coastal programs are in this, so Great Lakes bottomlands leasing and permitting, critical dune program, high risk erosion program under our Great Lakes programs, floodplain program to make sure that the projects are not increasing. If you do a project on your property, you're not pushing that water onto someone else and creating flooding someplace else. And then a dam safety program. The average, that's a regulatory program as well as we have a grants program for that. The average age of a dam in this state is past its 50-year design life cycle, and that is a piece of our infrastructure that carries a lot of public risk that is slowly degrading over time. And so we're doing what we can to try to make improvements there and get caught up. There's over several thousand dams in the state, not all regulated. Go ahead. So I at least want to put one slide in there about why we protect wetlands, and they have an incredible value in terms of the water quality in our rivers, lakes, streams, and Great Lakes. They also provide flood control, flood prevention, which we've seen some of the catastrophic impacts of that over the last several years. And then, also to our flora and fauna. So wetlands are overrepresented in terms of habitat for threatened and endangered species. And then if you're a sportsman like me and you care about fish and game, that's really important too. And so quite honestly, there is no circumstance where we continue to maintain the quality of our Great Lakes and our inland waters and our flora and fauna where we don't protect wetlands and do it effectively. So I'm going to zoom back out here and talk about the regulatory programs as a whole. We have a ton of work that cycles through the division on a regulatory basis. So we make, depending on the year, 9,000 to 10,000 permit decisions. We get about 2,500 complaints. We actually pretty severely undercount that, but that's what's in the database. And so I'm working on staff with trying to make sure we're accurately capturing that. And then service requests. We get about 2,500 service requests. So it might be a floodplain calculation, it might be a pre-application meeting for one of our permitting programs. We do about 7,000 inspections a year. 5,500 of those are compliance type inspections. The other are related to permit issuance. Out of those inspections, we take about 2,000 compliance actions a year. So we've gone out, done an evaluation of compliance, and then sent some kind of follow-up, asked for some type of responsive action. And then we take about under 100 escalated enforcement actions a year where we are pursuing fines or going to court or suing someone. And so this is actually a profile that I think I'm really proud of. I know that these programs get a lot of attention, but we are accomplishing a ton of work. About 15,000 regulatory work items are brought to us a year. We are following up on the permits that we issue and making sure that people are doing the things that they're supposed to. Despite what some people say, we're not finding something at every single place that we go. So 2,000 of those 5,500 compliance inspections, we're identifying, hey, there's something here that needs to be followed up on. And then frankly, we're really good at resolving those issues without having to do the toughest thing that we do, which is go pursue escalated enforcement. Go ahead. So I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about the regulatory programs tend to suck all the air out of the room. So I just wanted to take a couple of moments to talk about some of the really important things that we do that are non-regulatory. So we took about 1,500 fish tissue samples last year. We worked with DHHS and DNR to come up with fish consumption advisories on that. So that's looking at things like mercury, PCBs, PFAS, and fish tissues to make sure that people know how much fish they can eat, where they can eat it from. Our coastal management program works with local communities, has grant dollars, but also works on a technical basis with local communities to do planning. If you were in this state, I'm assuming everyone was, over the last 10, 11 years, we've seen record low and record high water levels in our coastal areas, and we've seen how destructive that can be. That's about 5.5 foot of elevation change between 2013, 2014, and 2019, 2020 in Lakes Michigan and Huron. And so that's difficult for communities to plan for, and so resiliency really matters, and the decisions we make on our coast, if we want to keep those incredible coastal resources and beaches, we have to make good decisions there. So that team works with them. We are one of the partners in the Michigan Natural Shoreline Partnership, where we work with training contractors and work on education with homeowners to try to make better decisions on our inland lakes in terms of shoreline protection. There's been a ton of advancement there during my career, and so to try to make some better decisions moving forward. We have an operator certification and education program for our regulatory programs, so that folks that work in the wastewater plant or out on the construction site are trained and understand the regulations and are able to interact with us in a way that works, and that's a really critical non-regulatory program. We have a area of concern program that works with national and international partners. There were 14, I think back in '87, there were 14 areas of concern identified in Michigan. These are largely these areas that were historically sins of the past. They were historically impacted by industrial decisions from a long time ago and have beneficial use impairments. And so the program works with all those partners to try to get rid of those contamination-related impairments in those water bodies. We've been able to delist 3 of those so far, and Muskegon Lake is on the list to do later this summer. So that program does really good work. Our hydrologic studies unit, highly technical work that they do. So they're doing these calculations. If you're a dam owner, what's the flood that I have to prepare for? They also do the calculations to make sure that our permits are protective of the designated uses of fish and wildlife when flows are very, very low. National Flood Insurance Program, again, we work closely with local communities. Some of it is our regulations, but in order to meet the federal standards for that, there's also regulation done at the local level, mostly through building departments. And we do tons of education. That's about $4.4 billion of insurance, discounted insurance coverage that's available to Michigan residents. Really critical program. And then last one I want to mention is the dam risk reduction grants. Post the failures in 2000 in the mid-Michigan dams, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. We had a sort of one-time $45 million pot of funding to give out at grants to do safety assessments, do some removals, do some upgrades at some of the dams that are struggling, and that money's been put to good use. The last pot of that money, we did $15 million a year over 3 years. The last pot of that money is getting ready to go out. So go ahead. Sorry, Travis. Am I still doing okay on time?
Great.
Okay. So I think this is the last slide before we get to questions. So these are my priorities and our division priorities for moving forward. Most of them have been a priority for at least the last 2 or 3 years, and we're going to continue to make improvements in these areas. First of all is with permitting efficiency. On our resource side of the programs, the wetlands and the lakes and streams coastal program side of the things, over the last 3 years, we've been able to cut off about 9 or 10 days from our permitting timeframes. That's about a 14% reduction over the last 3 years. And I think we're going to be able to continue on that track and continue to make improvements there. Again, that tracks back to getting our staff trained up and trying to balance things out a little bit. Made similar type of improvements on backlogs, on new issuances, on the water quality side of things. On the compliance side of things, we have had for a very long time a good compliance program on the water quality side. On the resource side, on the wetland side, I wouldn't say it was non-existent, but there was not a good compliance program out there. The pressure has always been in those programs on getting permits out the door, and so we've added some dedicated compliance folks in each district to be able to get to more complaints and try to create a little more of a balanced market out there in the people that are regulated. So we're following up, and that's been pretty effective so far. We're always working on being timely and effective in communication. Again, this was on the research, on the wetland side of things. We struggled over the years with being responsive, and we just need to acknowledge that. One of the things we've been able to add some staff over the last 3 years, and that's the expectation, is that we're being more responsive. Anecdotally, I believe we're making progress there, but there's more to do there. I already talked about staff retention and training. But I do want to talk about the sort of public customer education and engagement piece. So all added up, probably around 10,000 folks attended some type of educational session that we did last year. We're doing something virtually every week, so, and sometimes multiple in a week. 2 weeks ago, we did a webinar for the regulated community on how to get to a complete application, how to fill the application out. Last week, we went through an exercise because we were struggling with permitting marinas. So over the last year, we went through an exercise to develop some guidance on that. So we shared that with our stakeholders last week. And we have something else this week. This is not a good way to end a presentation, but I can't remember what it is. So so I can't remember what we've got going on this week. But we do have a ton going on. We're doing something almost every week. So and that's really all I have. I know I didn't get down in the weeds on the programs, but whatever programs you guys are interested in, happy to answer those questions. And yeah, thank you.
Rep Markkinen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say compliment Eagle. We had an event in Bexar County this past weekend. We got 3-4 inches of rain in a matter of minutes, and there was some washout and sewage overflow in Lawrence, the village of Lawrence. So, and Eagle was right there on the scene. So it was great work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A couple questions. What are your thoughts on beach nourishment?
Yeah, so it's we've had that proposed to us a few times. So it's not something that the department is opposed to. It's a right time, right place thing. So I think that's an issue that's come up quite a bit down in St. Joe and New Buffalo, right, where you have core structures that are blocking off the flow of sand. And so we're very open to because we're in a regulatory role there. We're typically not in an advocacy role for that, but we're 100% open to looking at a project, some type of proactive pump around to move that sand. We are supportive of beach nourishment for like when the Corps does dredging, if it's the right material. I'll use the word permit. It's technically a certification, but we certify that all the time. So it's a right place, right time thing. So we have to do an assessment of it. But in general, it's supportive and something that we permit.
How about now talk about dams a little bit. Do you think that the state has good cooperation with the feds on FERC dams to identify dam safety?
Yeah, so, cooperation, I don't know if that's the right word. In general, we do talk to FERC all the time. When there are, so in some of the situations, like when you talk about the dams up near Midland, the mid-Michigan dams, so FERC does not release some of that information, I think, for public safety reasons or national security reasons or whatever. So it can be really difficult, particularly when a dam is transitioning between regulation by FERC and then coming to us. Pretty much if it stays a FERC dam, we're kind of out of that, right, in terms of regulating the safety of that dam. That's generally handled by FERC. When it gets handed back to us is where we've had some challenges there. I don't want to sell FERC as a bad partner because we meet with them, we talk to them, but we have had some pretty significant challenges, Mid-Michigan being one of them, where we didn't have pretty important information in a timely manner to deal with it.
Yeah, thank you. I know our oversight committee this year had a hearing on Eagle's water withdrawal monitoring program, and there's an auditor from 2024 found there's discrepancy in the water calculations. You familiar with that a little bit?
Probably about with what you just said. So that program did used to be in Water Resources Division. Now it's in our Geologic Resources Management Division. I've not overseen
Okay.
it. So yeah.
That's fair then. I'll save that question for another day then. All right. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Maybe give us an update on the PFAS and the harbor dredging. You know, there's a lot of concern about that, and I'm sure there's people who will be upset with me if I didn't ask that question. So.
Yeah, sure. So I'll do the best that I can on that. So I don't know. Number one, this isn't a completely new thing. So we issue, I referenced it earlier, 401 certifications. So Clean Water Act 401 certifications for dredging projects, and though that does include assessment of different contaminants that may be in that. So PFAS is still a really new thing. So it definitely caused quite a stir. I think moving forward, I think we've got a really good plan in place. It's we're only going to do the testing. It's fairly expensive to do the testing on the dredge materials in areas where we suspect that there may potentially be PFAS contamination. It doesn't stick to sand, right? So as you start to scale through these different filters that it goes through, it's really going to impact a very small number of harbors. And I mean, honestly, it is appropriate. It's a contamination that we're all concerned about. One of the real challenges, and I think the timing got a little bit messed up, if I'm being honest, is the Corps has to plan and budget and do all these things several years of advance in these projects, and that's where we got a little bit of a hiccup. So I think we have the plan really good for going forward. We either have or are about to issue the cert for the Menominee River dredging, which is tied to a big manufacturing project up there, and then Grand Haven is obviously a big one, and I don't, Travis may know updated information on that. I know we're working with the Corps to see if there was a possibility that we could get some of that dredging done yet this year.
It's all primarily commercial ports. It's not recreational harbors.
It would be anything that the Corps maintains. I think that the list was.
We can get you the
Yeah,
list
I'll
of
get it.
harbors.
Yeah, we can get you the list of harbors. There's only, it was less than 10, it was less than 20 of our 70-some harbors that even have a PFAS site or a potential for contamination anywhere near it. So we can share that information. I'm sorry that I'm
No, that's okay.
stopping short on it.
I don't think you're stalling or anything. That's good. You're all right.
If I did, I should be more effective, mark clean at doing so.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you very
Thanks, guys.
much.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. If Rep. Price would move to excuse absent well, we don't have any absent members. So there being no further business before this meeting, we're adjourned.